Welcome to Edge Radio Australia and welcome to the Greater Wealth here. Now, this man here to my side, Derek Whitaker, you present this show, mate, and you're the man with the hand, the finger on the pulse, okay, the hand on the shoulder, quite frankly, for support.
It sounds like a Diana Ross song here, reach out and trust somebody's hand. Okay,
well, hang on.
Where's this going?
5 years ago, we weren't allowed to touch anybody, so, you got to look at the small mercies. Mate, great to have you here. We're obviously here to talk about the great collision, if you like, between politics and finance. And geez, there's a lot of collisions lately. We're certainly seeing a lot. Actually, you know what? I think we should expand this. Yeah. We should throw in finance, political climate, but also maybe the media, or should we just call it the propaganda arm, right? Because it's so much part of it. I've over the last few days, and I'm going to throw you a little curly one here, but the last few days I've watched a little bit about what's been going on with the media and Trump, and we see it all the time. Yeah. But they just did a bit of a study, and coming up to the last election, okay, so 73% of media that was actually given to Kamala Harris was positive, and 85% of the media given to Trump was negative. Yeah. And you just think to yourself, like, how much does this control? Because this controls your politics, obviously, but it controls your everyday life. I mean, your finances, the money in your super, the cost of a carton of milk.
It goes further than that, Aaron, because I was trialing, obviously with some of these shows I put out as a podcast, and I was trialing a AI software that helps with the titling of the videos. Right. And I was trying to put one about how Trump's terrorists are actually good news, and it kept coming up with negative titles for Trump's terrorists. And I thought, this is interesting. It's like you are programmed to put this negative. Now, I thought to myself, there's two aspects to this. One is, okay, have we brainwashed, the mainstream media has brainwashed the masses to think that anything that Trump puts out is negative, or it's just by default doing that? Or is it a case of we need to put it out there and kind of go, well, you know what Trump hasn't done so bad, to make it more palatable for those who think he's really bad. It's just fascinating how it's all programmed.
It's unbelievable. Well, look, AI is only as good as what's fed into it, as we know. But right now, the people who are controlling this seem to be on one very particular side of politics. That's what they're pushing, and it just drives me batty. And why I bring it up now is we talk about the collision here between the financial world and the political world. Okay, all of this money that we're pouring out to Ukraine, all of these lives that have been lost in Ukraine, and right now you've got a man who's trying to stop a war, and CNN and NBC, or whatever their name is this week, I think it's MS Now, it's going to become, are all trying to make peace sound like a bad idea.
I know. And look how many wars he has ended so far, right? And people are seriously going, we need to nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize. And it just doubles down that the mainstream media on this, in terms of, no, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. It's like, question the narrative, question it, please.
It takes it to a different level when Hillary is out there saying that, if he solves this problem right now, that she'll actually nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize. And when someone of that, who is, let's be honest, I mean, one of the most genuinely evil human beings on earth, is saying it, it just flies in the face of what the media are talking about.
Well, it was the Democrats that approved all the funding for the war, supporting Ukraine. And again, you'll recall what I said at the time: who made Ukraine good guys and Russia bad guys? And I'm not saying that it's the opposite, the Russia are good guys and the Ukraine bad guys, but I mean, why did we take sides here? What? Yeah. Who decided who was who?
That's we're in Australia. But we're in Australia. We're a long way away from, and don't get me wrong, we're worldwide citizens. We've got to be. But it's like, okay, with these marches for Palestine and all sorts of carry on going on there. Like, honestly, I'm really sorry, but okay, are the greatest majority of Australians thick, right? Because they jump into these causes, they believe what the media say, they don't question anything, and they go along with this rubbish. It concerns me about the level of intelligence we've got out there.
Or is it the same playbook that we've seen in the United States, where they're receiving backdoor funding to be activists? Could that be going on in Australia?
It is absolutely happening in Australia. Yeah. It is absolutely happening in
Australia. The more organised it is, the more it suggests that,
that's right.
Somebody's funding that. When you see the same tent colours in every different states of the United States, somebody's been funding that and buying en masse.
There's something going on there. I remember, a few years ago, some rallies that I was involved with, right, where, you had sort of massive crowds of people with all their homemade signs, which is fantastic. They're holding them up. And then you get the resistance. So you get the Socialist Party or someone like that who would come up to be resistant and show their, their power. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you'd have, say, 60,000 Australians there fighting for freedom. And then you'd have about, 40 or 50 of these socialists coming up. And all their signs were matching. Like they've come off the same printer.
Right.
And you just think to yourself, like, how are you counterculture when you very clearly you've been installed there? You're paid to be there. It's just not real.
Everybody, let's say it all together. We're all individuals.
Yes. I thought we were going to start singing "We're all in this together," but no, we're not. All right, mate. Well, I've just monopolised.
No, that's good. It's good.
It's.
Glad you got that off your chest.
Oh, yeah. Had to do something. What are your thoughts for today? Anyway,
well, it's really interesting what the reaction was last Friday in relation to Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, dropping the interest rates. Trump has been pushing for so long. And to put it into perspective, you can understand why, because it has been costing the United States just $830 billion, here or take, in interest on the national debt in the fiscal year 2022, right? That was, and it was projected it was going to be 1.013 trillion for 2025 in the fiscal year that we're currently in. That is 14% of total federal spending for the financial year in 2025.
It's just, you're living on Visa card, right? Yeah. Okay, you're just paying the minimum payment. That's what you're doing. You're just paying the interest payment. So you're never ever going to pay that principal. You're never ever going to knock off the debt.
Greater than the defense spending that happens annually. And that's what Trump has been pushing for is, please, Jerome, you've got to reduce the interest rate. You've got to reduce the interest rate.
So who's Jerome working for?
Oh,
that's a loaded question right there.
You want to go down that rabbit warren, do you?
Actually, I really wouldn't mind because, we're all told there's all these countries that we all have this debt. Mm-hmm. Who do we owe?
Well, it's the banking cartel, really.
Yes, right? Exactly. I'm sorry, mate.
Let's go. All right, let's go down that rabbit warren. So, okay. I mean, apparently the chairman is nominated by the president of the time, which wasn't Trump.
Sure.
He put Powell in there. Okay. But, actually, I better double fact check that. Who put Powell in?
Yeah, let's do that.
But what happens is oh, there you go. President Donald Trump nominated Jerome Powell to serve a 4-year term.
Is that right?
In November 2017. I just thought I better check that.
Well, I'm glad you did. So, you know what, and I don't care how people will take this. If he put him in that position, to be frank, I think he's got the right to have a little bit of power over him. Okay? That's how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're not performing, your boss fires you, right?
That's right.
So you can see the pressure on them. And this is the dichotomy of the situation, because of course the Federal Reserve is an independent body. Mm-hmm. So how much say does the president have in how it's run when it's supposed to be run independently?
True.
And so this is the tension, and he just can't walk in and go, "You're fired," and do the old apprentice routine.
It'd be funny if you could, though.
This is the thing. There's more pressure now on the Federal Reserve right now as scrutiny has come out. Have you heard about what's been happening to Lisa Cook, the one who holds a seat on the board?
No.
Okay, so she has had allegations of mortgage fraud against her, where basically it's been alleged. So it's not
just Letitia James who's got a bit of mortgage deals going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been alleged.
It's been alleged
that she's been falsifying documents to obtain better loan terms. Okay. So it kind of comes down to the situation where they do this. They buy a house. Is this your primary place of residence?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. You get better lending if it is your primary place of residence.
Sure.
And if it's not, then a couple months later, buys another house. Is this your primary place of residence? Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Okay.
So who's doing this one?
Well, it's been alleged that Lisa Cook has done this as far as mortgage fraud is concerned.
I think we're all being harsh. She's clearly a gypsy. She likes to keep moving. It's fine. Just keeps moving with a cheaper interest rate, obviously.
So this is come under a lot of scrutiny, and there are calls for her to step down. This is all the while, there's been the pressure on Jerome Powell. But I think if you put it in the broader spectrum of things, this is really interesting, the pressure that the Federal Reserve is under. And I bring it back to the Genius Act.
Okay.
The Genius Act was, for those who don't know, a legislation that went through Congress, was passed by the president, to put stable coins into the realm of basically finance, where it is legitimate, that
Sure.
digital dollars are legitimate, that they are legally recognized,
Yep.
as a fair means of exchange or currency. The second thing that it did was it means it had to be backed by something. You just couldn't put this programming out there and not do anything with it. So that is significant from the point of view that in 1971, President Nixon depegged the dollar, the US dollar, from the gold standard. Now, it's kind of ironic because you can have a stablecoin that represents the US dollar, but you can hold treasury notes to that, which is kind of fiat and the whole creation of things. So it's not really pegged to gold per se, but it is pegged to
the dollar.
The dollar, which is unpegged from the gold standard. Okay.
Yeah. No, we need a diagram for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You follow me on that?
I am. Okay. Carry the two. Yeah. Okay.
You need to lay down. I understand. Tell me about your mother. And but it says that if you bring out a stablecoin, it has to be backed by something. So if you bring out a gold backed stablecoin, it has to have the gold reserves.
Sure.
And so that is happening. There are massive gold reserves going on. But the third thing that it did, and this is the most significant, and people don't realize this about the Genius Act, is that it allowed a tech crypto company to now have issuance of currency, which has always been reserved for a central bank. And this is taking power away from the central banks. Ooh. This is the whole significance of the Genius Act that people aren't seeing. So you put that into perspective of what Congress has passed, what the Republicans have passed, what Trump has signed off on, okay, and wanting to be the crypto capital of the world, the United States.
They certainly want that.
Plus the pressure that is on Jerome Powell.
Yep.
Not only about stepping down and lowering interest rates, but Trump put him on the front scene when he did that field trip that out to the Federal Reserve where they're wearing the hats, hard hats. And he's looking, well, let's look at the renovations that the Federal Reserve has done, which have blown out, I think it was $1.8 billion, right? Okay. Just crazy. And you've got that great footage of them arguing over how much it's actually cost.
And it was semantics. That's what it was. It was childish, quite frankly.
Right. So, and Trump being a builder sees right through and sees all the mistakes that have happened, what could have been done cheaper and all this sort of stuff. So why is this significant? He is putting the Federal Reserve front and center on the world stage. He's saying this is where your tax dollars have gone. See how they've been mismanaged. Look at this. This guy will not reduce our interest rates and help us make America great again. And he's been saying, listen, if you reduce them, it will help us with our interest rates and kick our economy. And Powell, according to Trump, has been saying, look, what if inflation goes up? And Trump's like, well, then you just increase the interest rates again. But until that time, drop it.
Yep.
And so I think where it really hurts the mum and dad, and this is the crunch, is that a lot of people who would, on a lower interest rate, qualify for owning a home can't or don't because the interest rates are so high.
Simple as that. Okay, it's freezing a lot of people out of the market.
Right.
Okay.
So this is the thing, and the pattern here, the thing that we're seeing here is the middle class being removed. I think the socialist agenda is to remove the middle class. Why? Because the middle class are too powerful.
Agreed.
Right. And this is, you see this pattern going on, not just in the United States. I see it also in the UK, in England. I've been seeing this in Australia, particularly. We put mass migration in, artificially inflate the housing market. Sure. Right. There's a shortage now. We don't have the hospital infrastructure, all that sort of thing. People are in emergency waiting lines forever. You might as well put take your sleeping bag because you're going to be there a while.
Waiting 3 years for an operation here, right here. 3 years. Yeah. Unbelievable.
So it's broken. And I think this is the big attack. And then when you see like a Labor government is introducing more and more taxes, again, it's another attack on unrealized capital gains and stuff like this. This is trying to get rid of the middle class who are trying to get ahead. Whereas the wealthy, the super wealthy, well, they're fine, and don't bag them out. The answer is not what the socialists want you to believe is let's just raise taxes, okay? Because there's implications for that if that's done. Agreed. Because then they'll just move abroad and they'll say, see you later, we're not going to do business here anymore. And it also does not highlight the risks that an entrepreneur will take. I mean, they will risk the next family's generational wealth on the line to do a business deal.
Well, that's exactly right. And you know what? That risk needs to be rewarded. Okay?
Exactly.
Well, it's certainly the opportunity for it to be rewarded.
Because they are feeding families and employees and helping them with their mortgages and they're feeding their families, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we've got to just put the brakes on a minute and go, what is really going on here? And so this tussle between the Federal Reserve and Trump is highly significant. And now he's going, look, this Lisa Cook has allegedly done mortgage fraud. She needs to step down as well.
Of course she is. Well, if this is alleged, as we say, but I mean, look, if this is has got any weight to it, and I'm sure, look, let's face it, wouldn't have got to this degree if it didn't. If it's got, then just the optics alone, she has to step down. You can't have somebody there who is openly doing something. Her name is, a bit like Roger Cook. He's got the silent R in there, Roger Crook, right? If you're playing the game and you're gaining from it. No, and letting the main society miss out, it's absolutely disgusting. Great points come up from Martini's Eco and Country Bites. Hello there. A great conversation, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Our Federal Reserve is a Gonski. Well, I tend to certainly agree with the sentiment. Treasury is next level return to gold, basically get back to the gold standard and blockchain. I think there's a lot of that going on. I think that I've been watching a little bit. Obviously, I've known about the old pulling the dollar off the gold standard for a very long time, but I've actually been watching a bit of it lately, some YouTube videos and a bit of information, sort of just pop myself up on it. And there was so much going on. It's just utterly corrupt, right? I can't see, to me, there is just no logical reason for doing it.
The whole banking...
Apart from paying for a war... Right. I mean, if we look at 71, it's in the middle of the Vietnam War. Is it just money laundering? What's going on there?
Well, what used to happen? You go back to the Napoleonic era, right?
Okay.
Like it's been going on for a while.
I wasn't there.
It was a bit of cold times,
okay.
Right? Napoleon had his wars.
Yes.
And what the banking cartel, the Rothschilds, realized was that the quickest way to get rich was to actually lend to countries.
Sure.
Okay, not individuals.
Okay, makes sense.
And a nation would, go into extend the credit card to the max out the credit card, basically, when their borders were threatened, when they're about to go to war.
Okay.
So what would happen was one nation would go to the banking institution and say, we need a loan to fight our war. And they say, okay, great. We will give you the loan on the guarantee that you will also look after the defeated foe's debts. Then the other nation would come to them and say, we need a loan for our war. Because if they get a loan, we need a loan. They're going to extend their militia and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And again, they give the same conditions. Fine, we'll give you the money you want on the condition that you be a guarantor for the defeated foe's debts.
Okay.
So they had a win-win bet going either way.
Yeah. Get
their money back with interest, right? This has been going on for centuries, this kind of behavior. In fact, Napoleon did not want to go to war with a loan from the banks. And that's why you got the Mississippi Purchase in the United States, where the French sold that Mississippi to the United States. Okay. And that helped fund his war. So
didn't know that.
You look at these pieces of history, and it's fascinating how it all plays out. What we're seeing now in terms of land purchases is really fascinating. Trump wants Greenland. And he's saying, look, there's only about 45,000 people there.
Yeah.
He's actually just come out and said that, in Denmark, it's questionable whether they actually own the land legally anyway. And if they do, they should hand it over because we need it for international security.
Of course we
do. Because of
now,
what's going through with the Russians and Chinas and all that sort of stuff.
So flippant about it, though. You just hand over the land. Okay. You don't need to use it. We'd rather use it. We can
now,
be
it
more
sounds
productive.
brash on the surface, but historically, you look at this. Well, one of the best land purchases the United States made was Alaska from the Russians, right?
Yeah.
And look how that played out and helped them in the Cold War.
What did they pay? A few cents an acre or something. It was ridiculous.
Look,
whatever it was.
Whatever the value of money was back then, right? But, I mean, Trump is a real estate guy.
That's right.
So he's just looking at Greenland as being a big piece of real estate. Now, I'm not saying that's a green light to go ahead and do that. But you've got to think about, how does this person think? What is the mindset? What's the motivation behind?
Do you know what I love about Trump?
Behavior?
He doesn't think like a politician.
No.
He thinks like a businessman. And how many times in history have we all been talking about this and said, geez, wouldn't it be great if somebody actually understood business was running the country rather than a politician? Yeah. They finally got what they asked for. And Americans ask for this a lot, let's be honest, right? Now they've got what they asked for. And now, well, certainly the media class, really, and obviously the Democrats, but who cares about the Democrats? They're irrelevant. I mean, they're much like Liberal is in Australia, right? Completely irrelevant now, right? it just help me on this one because
he's disrupting a system.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's disrupting a whole banking system by doing this.
Yeah.
Now, anyone who disrupts someone's cash flow will have opposition. They will rise up and say, hang on, what are you doing? I've seen this play out. I know a lawyer who won a legal case in Queensland against speeding fines.
Right.
Okay. Then tried the same thing in Western Australia. They were ready for him in Western Australia.
Gotcha.
They were out and he was surprised. I said, why are you so surprised? I said, you are threatening their cash flows. Mm-hmm. They are going to have something to say to that because if you find a loophole or something that hasn't been covered, they are threatened by that because of the money it brings into the state.
Well, there you go. On that little loophole, and using that as an example, right? A lot of people have paid fines. When you get the fine in the mail and it's got zooms in on your face and shows your face, right, to identify you're the driver.
Mm-hmm.
That's utterly illegal. You're not allowed to film into a private place, right? So you can film the car publicly, the license plate, all of that is completely legal. But literally, it is against the law for them to enter your private place, for them to film and identify you. So if you got the fine, now this is the letter of the law. I'm not saying this is how the law actually works because the law is, corrupt. But if the law worked how it was written, if they can say, okay, that car has got a fine. Now, you can't fine a car, can you? You have to fine an individual. So unless you signed and said, yes, I agree that I'm the driver. If you said, no, I'm not the driver and took it to court, you could literally say, I'm sorry, you can't use that photograph as evidence because you have actually entered a private place and you do not have, under the surveillance and communication law, you don't have the right to film there.
Okay.
So there you go. But you'll also get it, I won't use the word like I'm not Travis. You might get an unpleasant magistrate. You will get an unpleasant magistrate who will just override it and not actually follow the law. So that's how that works. But there you go.
Yeah.
Use this information.
So I mean, this is what he's done, and this is why it's so highly significant. Is he's disrupting things? He's breaking it up, but it goes further than that in terms of international relationships. Right? For years, NATO, the European countries, have relied on the United States coming in, backing them for any war or outbreak that happens. What Vance did earlier this year was hugely significant. Like going to Germany and speaking to the nations and saying, you guys have become what you fought against 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So true.
And to say that in Germany, of all places,
exactly.
right?
Yep.
Was massive. And they didn't take it well.
No.
Suddenly they realized the country that we've been relying on to back us is questioning and saying we need to rise up and fight our own wars. Because America, the last thing it needs is to be dragged into a European war, which I believe was the trap. That is what they wanted. They wanted World War III with this whole conflict.
I really agree with you on that.
And thank God it has unwound and people have seen through it. But that was the trap. And they wanted to weaken Russia through that, right? Mm-hmm. Through whether it's a real threat or a fear-mongering threat of its influence in Europe. Yep. I don't think it is in Putin's mindset to take over Europe. I don't think they can afford to do it. I don't think they have the resources to do it.
Both those things you just said is absolutely true. They don't have the resources and they don't have the desire. Like if you listen to Putin and that conversation he had with Tucker Carlson, who was going through the history of Russia and their territories, I mean, he has incredible links to those sort of areas, and that's what he was concerned about. And the fact that, let's be absolutely honest, Ukraine has got a lot of Russian people in there, right? It was actually more about reestablishing what that was actually taken from them with the end of the Cold War, not literally any moving through Europe any further. There's nothing to be gained.
Or deals that were broken, promises that have been broken by Ukraine, saying we will not get cozier to NATO, we'll stay out. And since the last few years, all we've heard is Zelensky saying, I want to be in NATO. I want US backing. I want US security. I think Trump sees through all of this and does not want to fund this and get involved in a European war. Because let's frankly, like we started with, they can't afford it. They can't afford to go to war right now. They don't want to do that. And why should American boys and girls shed their blood for a war that doesn't directly affect the United States of America?
And it doesn't. It doesn't. No, that's right. Yeah. Again, why we've got all these people in Australia who are all over the Sydney Harbour Bridge and all over the place, and over all through Brisbane. There was apparently 40,000 over the weekend. I've heard all different figures, so don't quote me on that. There might have been a bigger crowd than that. for conflicts that are happening on the other end of the earth that have got nothing to do with us.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing that Australia's come out and said we will stand by Ukraine makes absolutely no political sense. It does not make sense because, one, we're not in Europe. Two, our contribution to that effort anyway is so minuscule compared to the rest of the world. Why would you, come out and say that and put your biggest ally offside? And
really simple reason. Like it is a very simple reason. Albanese is an absolute moron. I've always, for many years, I've said Julia Gillard was the worst Prime Minister Australia has ever had, right? Anthony Albanese ran in there, hold my beer. Like, honestly, that man has taken the disgusting work that Gillard did and has just taken he is the greatest traitor. And in fact, I saw a survey today, and that literally, they're doing the breakups, the breakdown rather of how you feel about Albanese, and was it, is he, the weakest prime minister? Is he a traitor? Is he good for the country? Whatever. Okay. Now, 79% said he's a traitor. 79%. Wow. That's how we feel about it.
Who conducted that survey?
I'm sorry, I saw it about 15 minutes before you arrived. So I honestly can't remember. But it's fresh. It's today. So funny enough, it's one of the mainstream medias. So
is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There you go.
So, and I think in that situation, I think is Albanese making these decisions. We know that the Labor Party operates as a bit of a pack, and I've heard a ex-Liberal politician say that they move like that in terms of their decisions, how they campaign, and all that. Whereas the Liberal Party are more independent because, let's face it, they're all used to the business community where you run your business, I run a business, so you run it. But we'll reach out a reaching hand if you need a help or a hand. But it's less coordinated in the way they approach things.
Yeah, exactly right. And fundamentally, also, on I think we need to be very honest for a while. That the Labor side is socialism, is communism in disguise. Okay, this is what's going on, and why
they admit it.
Yeah, well, of course
Article 4. Socialist Democratic Party. And thanks to Travis for showing that to me.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Travis has just said something there. He's actually said, Alibu is the reason we left Australia. Well, there you go. That's a pretty good comment right there at that time. But it is social. Now, at least with the Liberal Party, I'm certainly not advertising for the Liberal Party here, but at least they have the right to cross the floor and actually be heard, and they can represent the public and their areas, right? Spot on.
Yeah.
Whereas, the Labor Party can't. You're not allowed to cross the floor. You have literally, if you vote for the Labor Party, you are voting for a communist regime. That's what you are voting for. Why the hell won't Australians wake up?
Well, it's even a lot of the Labor politicians don't even know what they've signed up for.
No,
I confronted my own local member who came there, and I said to him, your party is a Socialist Democratic Party. And he goes, okay. I said, Article 4 in your Constitution. He goes, okay. And I'm thinking, the guy hasn't read it. The guy hasn't read what he signed up for and represents. No. I was like, far out.
It's absolutely frightening. We're seeing this happening right across the world right now. And thank God, actually, I'll take this opportunity. And I know a lot of people got different ideas about this, but come the 31st of this month at Supreme Court Gardens, 1 p.m, I will be there. I will be standing there for Australia. I'm certainly not racist in any way, shape, or form. I'm unbelievably mixed blood, so it would be pretty stupid for me to be racist. I'd kind of isolate half my own family. But this is something we need to do. We're seeing in the UK at the moment, they're really standing up. Have you seen what's going on every crosswalk? And it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's putting the flags up.
Got the flags going up.
It's funny because there's annoying council members.
Oh, I know.
Right? We're patriotic. Put a flag up.
That's right. And then they have to go and paint them out, which is hilarious. So and this is also, this is actually, we talk about people using their initiative. There's a lot of potholes, in the UK. So people are actually putting the flags inside the potholes because it's the only way they're getting fixed. It's fantastic, right?
Paint the pothole. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is we're seeing this happening. We saw it in the Netherlands with the farmers who stood up a little while ago in history, and they've been absolutely fantastic. We're seeing the UK said, I've absolutely had enough. Australia is standing up and saying, I've had enough. I saw the Italian Prime Minister this morning. She was speaking about the fact that, yes, of all of these same issues that the world is fighting at the moment, and she was so pro-Trump, and it was very, very positive to say.
She just spent time with him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
They're trying to sort out the whole issue, and they had the European leaders there with Zelensky in tow, and it's interesting. He is the alpha male right now on the world stage.
No doubt about it.
And everybody hops and jumps. And, why? Because he owns the biggest consumer base in the world, and he knows it. So if you want to do deals with him, you've got to get favorable tariffs, so you better be on board.
Yeah.
And Trump is just I don't think it I think we've highlighted this before, and I think it's really true, is the nations that are not representing freedom of speech are getting punished for it. Right. And I think it's really fascinating. And all of the antics that the Labor government's been doing in relation to federal politics or international politics in terms of we stand by Ukraine and we recognize Palestine as a state. I mean, why are they saying that? Is really not doing them a favor. And they haven't gotten any closer to having an audience with Trump in the meantime.
No,
right? Exactly they can't even get a meeting with him or a phone call because you're not in alignment with my values and there are bigger issues to deal with than you guys.
Yeah, and you know what? We need to get in the alignment of free speech because, the conversation we're having right now in the forum that we're having it right now, interactive forum, we're out on the internet, we're all over the world, The conversation we're having right now, at Christmas time this year is illegal, right? Take that. Let's be real about this. What we're doing right now, Christmas time in Australia, with all the new e-Karen laws, not going to Karen, this conversation is against the law. Come January, I could be in cuffs, right? And I'm cool with that. I'm right, as long as she's cute. No, I'm only kidding. But this is ridiculous. In this day and age, free speech should be exactly that, free. We pay for everything else. It's about time that we actually got our free speech back. The comment that Travis Carter's just put up on the bottom, he's actually, he's got a couple of exclamation marks, so he must be passionate. We are not standing up. Too many people still have their heads in the sand, and it is sad. It is very, very sad indeed. You're right, mate. I mean, the reality is that most Australians are just on autopilot. Why? Because when things are tough and you're struggling to put food on the table and your petrol prices, are up, obviously your electrician's up, rent is ridiculous. Look, I just saw it, two-bedroom place, right? No, nothing fancy, nothing great. $800 a week.
Yeah.
Come off it.
Yeah.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. So, it's very hard not to have your head in the sand when you're just in survival mode. And we've all been in some point of our lives, we've been in survival mode, and you don't see outside. You kind of get stuck in that. It makes it hard to look at the big picture. Sorry, another comment. Oh, hang on. Oh, there's a few coming in. Let's have a look. Okay, let's see if that was the next comment. Sorry, I'll just bring it up on the big screen so we can actually see it. I heard that Alba has done 7 trips to China and 4 to see Biden, but 0 visits to Trump in any country. Well, that I would believe that. But why would Trump waste his time? I mean, honestly, I hate hanging out with weak men. Weak men are, the greatest problem in this world. They cause so much drama. So, yeah, why would he?
Well, I think Trump's got bigger issues to deal with, right, at the moment.
Yeah.
It's basically to deal with the terrorists, turn this around financially, internally. You got to fix America's economy at the moment with the debt and all those issues. And, of course, he's got the terrorists that are helping with that. He's trying to sort out this international war, before it becomes an international war in Europe and other conflicts that are going on. And then also clean house back home in the United States as well.
Yeah, no, he's busy. I don't think he sleeps.
He's got a few things going on. So, the AUKUS deal, all that sort of stuff, that's just one deal in how many they're dealing with right now.
Exactly. So, no, I get why you wouldn't deal with Albo. Martine's message here, standing up for what you believe in, take a conscious decision to adult. What a great point. Yeah. You know what? We can't be children forever, and so many people are that way, and they want to be they want to be parented, for want of another word. They want somebody to make their decisions for them, and that is no way to live as an adult and contribute to the country and to the world, right?
Yeah, and I've met it. And speaking of adult, I've said to you before, and I'll say it again, I think Australia is now changing. in the way it operates internationally. It has to. We've been the adolescent in our consciousness. Look at us. We did great things on the Olympic state sporting front, and we're clever. How clever we are. Kind of showed off like a teenager would. Look at my new muscles and this sort of thing. But I think we've reached a point where we're going, we've got to wake up, because our isolationism with the big oceans is not enough as far as technology is concerned to protect us anymore.
Nope.
And we have got very vulnerable shipping lines in our nation. We've got to have a country that thinks forward in terms of how we're doing this. Right now, I don't think there's a confidence in many of the psyche of Australians that the current leadership is handling that, or can handle that, or is not compromised in relation to what it's dealing with.
Do we have any leaders, though? Like genuine leaders? Like you look at, Susan Ley and the Liberal Party. Look, and I know I'll get trashed because this will be so misogynistic. She's pathetic. I don't care about her gender. She is absolutely pathetic. She is. There's no way in the world. And okay, you've got Hastie there as a replacement. Well, is he much better?
Liberal has lost the last few elections because they're too close. They basically, a policy is, they say in terms of Labor, same.
Yeah.
Right.
Just Labor light.
They're not in opposition. That's why they're doing so poorly, and by doing so they've muddied their marketing as well. What do they stand for anymore?
What do they stand for?
People don't know what they stand for. So even if they stayed centre, right? Even they were always like centre right.
Sure.
But even if they stayed centre, they would be a contrast to how extreme the left has gotten.
But let's also give credit where it's due. When it comes to, the Australian Labor Party, who have just done the greatest job in selling, this is marketing 101, right? They've sold themselves as the party of the people. They've never been the party of the people, ever. I consider the Greens very much the marketing arm of the Australian Labor Party. I mean, you've got all of these groups out there that do the marketing work and the propaganda for the Labor Party. But, how many people are still... So if you're poor, right? If I'm poor, because I am, right? I'm in that demographic, that where people should be going, hey, I should be voting for Labor because they look after the working man and the people who are struggling, right? But it's such a lie. They've just done a marketing job on us. It's absolutely, they haven't represented us for a very, very long time. So if your grandfather voted for Labor and, your dad voted for Labor, your mum voted for Labor, all that sort of thing, you're being hoodwinked. You're just being out-marketed, right? That's the problem.
In some ways, they're still the same too. I remember the Bob Hawke era where he wanted to get the Australia card through legislation, and now we have a Labor government that's really pushing this whole digital ID upon the masses.
So true.
And, the way Hawke got through it is that basically he bypassed it and said, okay, anyone who sets up a bank account will now have to register it with their tax file number, will be penalised and pay higher taxes. And no, you don't have to. We won't force it upon you. But, nobody wants to miss out on being penalised for having money in a banking institution.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, it won't. It's not illegal. We won't force you. We'll just make you pay a lot higher rate of tax.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is that any different in terms of the socialist democratic arm moving on the people?
That's right.
That's what you've got to ask.
But and also you've got to ask, you need to accept that this is all happening on a worldwide scale, This is not just happening in Australia. We're seeing it all over the world. The march of communism, and they've been doing it for a very long time. We can call it socialism, we can call it whatever we like, but socialism is literally just the Diet Coke of communism. It's just the I don't know, it's the gateway drug, if you like. We're seeing it right across the world, and by all these individual countries standing up and actually believing their sovereignty, this is what we have to do. We also need to stop arguing and allowing the arguments internally. We need to stop this, black versus white, man versus woman, all of that kind of rubbish. We need to fight and actually get some unity. That's what I think.
Well, divisiveness helps the agenda, doesn't it? Because if the people are divided and caught up in the whole racist debate and, you called me this and that and so-called hateful speech, it divides a society. A divided society cannot stand. It cannot resist.
Yeah.
That's part of the playbook here.
Like what's going on right now, the propaganda about the 31st for the event, for the rally, which is, going to be a great event for people to come and feel that solidarity, feel that confidence of being with like-minded people, feel that strength in their country. Now, what are they doing? The mainstream media specifically is trying to create this division. Like, if you go, you're a racist. All these bad.
What's the protest about?
Okay, basically, it's on the 31st. It's going to be a rally at Supreme Court Gardens, and all around the major cities around Australia, right? Now, it's being pushed very much an anti-immigration kind of rally. Well, that's kind of is part of it. Okay, it's about stopping the immigration for the moment, right? While we actually do some catching up, right? So it's not saying like it's
the time out on immigration.
Time out on immigration, effectively. That is one of the primary things that they're talking about. But we are losing our sovereignty. We're losing what it is to be Australians. We're living in a cost of living crisis, and that term gets thrown around, but it's very, very real. As I say, look, a 2-bedroom place for $800 a week is ludicrous in this state.
The problem is we're diluting our values, and I think, and that's not being racist. That's just when you mix iron and clay together, you get a weaker product.
You do.
And that is what is going on. Now, why I mentioned that image up is very, very interesting. If you actually go to ancient times, biblical prophecy, Daniel has a vision of many empires across time.
Right.
One is gold, the head is gold, the chest, and that is silver.
Yep.
And on it goes through the kingdoms, the Babylonian Empire, the Persians and Medes, the Roman Empire. Okay. And the last one is the one where the feet are of iron and clay. Somebody suggested to me this last week, and I thought it was brilliant, is when you mix values together in forced immigration, you are forming a weaker society. You're mixing iron and clay together, and it cannot bond as well, making it more brittle for breaking.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. Biblical, in fact. I mean, I look at it this way in many ways. I think, look, Australia is a far more interesting place because we are a mixed bag. You know, as I say, look, we've got different cuisines from all around the world. We've got different cultures, all of that, which is has enriched the country. But it enriches the country if you join, and I'll get trash for this, but the Christian-based foundations that we have, okay, and you're enhancing society, you're not taking it over. And then currently we're in a situation where a lot of different cultures are coming over and they are taking over. Now that is the negative thing. So come and enhance it. As I say, I wouldn't exist without immigration. My old man, well, there you go. My old man is literally emigrated to Australia because of political persecution, because of color of skin, all of that. That's why I exist, right? So, obviously I'm going to be positive about immigration, but it's like anything. It's okay. It is moderation. You can't go to, we're always told to eat well, eat in moderation, look after yourself. Okay. Now, at the moment, right now, basically we're just importing nothing but fast food. All right.
Well, 1.5 million in 2 years of immigrants in a population. What are we? 22 million?
I think it's more than that. Not sure.
What's concerning is if you change 10% of the population, you change the culture.
Yes, you do. Right?
Any dynamic.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
You look at that in the schoolroom, in a classroom. If a teacher has 10% of the classroom disrupting, he or she has lost the entire class. Completely. It's the same thing, dynamic happening in a general population. If you have greater than 10% of the population thinking a certain way, it will sway the rest of the population, disrupt it.
Well, that's a very uncomfortable fact. Very uncomfortable fact. We're going to close up the show and just tick. Is there anything you'd like to bring forward, my friend?
You know what? You're more powerful than you think you are. It sounds really, really negative. It really does. But look, the disruption can happen and God's got a way of doing it. Look what's happening in the United States with the old cartels are getting disrupted and they're not happy about it. No. And yes, someone had to put their life on the line. They did get shot for it.
Yep.
But, everything is coming according to plan. You are meant to live in freedom. You and I were meant to be free, not addicted to anything.
No.
And that's the beauty of what's going on, is we're getting into this place, a great revelation where people are far more aware of what is actually going on. And that's the exciting part. So we can get all negative and say, this is what's going on, this is going wrong. But when you're empowered with this information and when you actually start to speak to your politicians about these issues, it's really interesting to see them get fearful and break out in a sweat. They're nervous about it.
I like watching them sweat.
That's where it needs to be. What's the old saying? That a government that fears its people is a healthy society, as opposed to people who fear their government. So guys, rise up, get educated, move forward on it, and ask questions.
2 points you've just said there, which are brilliant. So basic, but so true. Okay, get educated and ask questions. 2 fundamental things there. Yep. I will add one more to it. Action. Yep. Actually act. Don't just think it. Don't just share a few memes and things like that. That you get up and make a difference. Thank you very much for being part of the Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia.